today we're diving into something, well, really fundamental. It shapes pretty much everything we do, often, without us even realizing it.
Yeah, it's about how markets work. Or, maybe more accurately, how all these different systems figure out who gets what.
Mm.
And we're digging into this using that great stack of sources you shared.
Exactly. We hear market and, we think stocks, bonds, buying stuff,
Yeah.
money.
Right. But the material you found, it really shows that markets are, well, everywhere, woven right into your morning routine from the moment you wake up.
Totally. Just think about it for a second. That blanket you use, the music playing, maybe the toast you had for breakfast.
All that stuff got to you through these incredibly complex webs, supply, demand, allocation. It looks simple on the surface, but underneath.
Oh.
Wow.
And a really key point in these sources is that not all these systems actually involve money deciding who gets access.
Yeah, take kidney transplants. Huge costs involved, obviously, in the whole procedure. But you absolutely cannot legally buy or sell the kidney. It's just forbidden.
Or, like, airport landing slots. Airlines pay fees, sure, but it's not just a simple auction where the highest bidder wins the slot. There's more going on.
Public education, too, funded by taxes, so access is free for kids, not based on ability to pay at the door.
Okay, so when you have scarce resources, and kidneys are definitely scarce for people who need them, or maybe spots in really popular schools, and you can't or won't use price.
When you absolutely need some kind of deliberate matching process, some system have to decide.
Right, so our mission for this deep dive, using your sources, is to really get into the science of this market design. How do these systems, especially the matching ones, where who you're matched with is super important, actually work?
Then why do they sometimes just fall apart, break down completely?
Yeah, and how can we fix them or make them better? It's about pulling out those key ideas from the material.
Okay, so a fascinating place to start is how the sources kind of split markets into different types. You've got commodity markets on one hand.
Right, like wheat, corn, shares of stock, standardized stuff.
Exactly. And in those, buyers and sellers are pretty much anonymous. One bushel of corn is like another. Doesn't matter who you buy it from, really.
But even there, the sources show how design matters, like that history of the wheat market back in the 1800s. It wasn't always a pure commodity market.
No, it was much more like a matching market back then.
Yeah.
Buyers would literally inspect samples. They'd have relationships with certain farmers. It wasn't just price.
So the quality of that specific sample mattered, and who you were dealing with mattered.
Precisely. But then someone came up with a clever design, a reliable grading system. Number 2, hard red winter wheat, that kind of thing.
Ah, so that commodified it. Suddenly you could buy a standard grade without seeing it, without knowing the farmer.
And that design change made the market way thicker. Suddenly, tons more buyers and sellers could confidently trade. And safer, too.
Okay, so commodifying, through clever design like grading, makes a market thick. Lots of participants, easy transactions.
Yeah, and it helps with congestion, too, right? Offers can go out to the whole market, not just individual negotiations one by one.
Makes sense. And the sources point out it's kind of a spectrum, isn't it?
Totally. Buying that graded wheat, pure commodity. Buying, say, specific baguette from your favorite local baker, that's much closer to matching. You care who made that loaf.
Okay, this next part's really cool, how markets aren't just standalone things. They kind of build on top of each other, like layers.
Yeah, the sources have great examples. Like, think about Amazon. Huge marketplace, right? But it totally depends on the internet existing.
And the internet needed computers, then smartphones, to become this platform we use for everything.
And smartphones. They became marketplaces themselves, which then needed ways to pay. Enter credit cards.
Which the sources call two-sided markets, yeah. They need both shoppers and stores to sign up, otherwise they don't work.
Exactly. It's this whole evolution. Cash, then credit cards simpler for us maybe, but adding layers of costs and competition, not always obvious ones.
Right, like that point about who pays for credit card rewards. If you use cash, are you kind of subsidizing my airline miles because the store prices things higher overall to cover card fees?
It's often exactly like that. It's a design system, but the incentives and costs aren't always transparent to you, the user.
Okay, so markets are design, they evolve, but they can also fail. Like bridges, right? Weak points can cause a collapse.
Exactly. And market design as a field actually learns a ton from failures. Figuring out what went wrong is key to building better systems. The courses identify a few common ways they tend to break down.
Let's tackle the first one. Failure because things happen too soon. Unraveling, they call it.
Unraveling, yeah, is when transactions in a market just keep happening earlier and earlier, sometimes way before anyone really has the information they need.
The sources use that wild example from history, the Oklahoma land rush, 1893.
Oh yeah, dramatic stuff. The design was supposed to be simple. Line up, race in at a set time, first come, first served.
But people cheated. The Sooners, they snuck in early, staked illegal claims.
Total chaos, violence. The whole system just fell apart for people trying to follow the rules, like that guy Walter Cook the sources mentioned. Arrived legally, found a spot, then got overrun by claim jumpers.
So the first come, first served design actually created the incentive to cheat and break the market.
Precisely. And unraveling isn't just history. We see it today. College football bowl games. Before, the playoff system was better designed.
Oh, right. Teams and bowls making deals mid-season, before we even knew who was really good, leading to bad matchups.
Yeah, and fines didn't stop it. Needed a redesign. Hiring markets too, law firms hiring summer associates years out. Investment banks.
And that federal law clerk example is crazy hiring happening years before students even finish law school.
It really shows the core problem. Everyone might prefer to wait, get more info, have a thicker market later on, but individually.
You feel like you have to jump in early or you'll miss out entirely.
Exactly. The sources explain how with law clerks, the almost top judges started it, making early offers to grab top students before the very top judges could. Then everyone had to follow suit.
And that quote from the student feeling forced to choose between breaking the rules or maybe not getting a clerkship at all? Wow.
It's that strategic pressure. Like driving around looking for parking. Do you grab the okay spot way down the street now? Or risk driving closer and finding nothing?
You might rationally know waiting is better for everyone, maybe even you. But the fear of getting nothing if you wait is too strong.
That's unraveling. Individual incentives overpowering the collective good. Simple rules often aren't enough.
Okay, failure number 2.
Yeah.
Markets that are too fast. That sounds weird. Isn't fast good?
Usually, yeah. But too fast can actually cause congestion. The sources call it the economic equivalent of a traffic jam.
Huh. So like too much happening at once.
Kind of. It's a curse of thickness, in a way. So many options, so many potential transactions that actually evaluating them and completing one becomes slow, frustrating, jammed up.
Okay. Like early Uber or Airbnb maybe. If finding a car or booking a place took forever because there were so many listings or requests bouncing around.
You just give up, right? Go back to taxis or hotels. Congestion can kill a market if it's too frustrating for users.
So how did they fix that?
Well, technology helped massively. Smartphones, mainly, faster communication, real-time updates on who's available where, smoother payments. They use design, enabled by tech, to manage that potential congestion.
But congestion can happen even in markets that seem super fast, like financial markets.
Yeah, this is wild. They seem instant, right?
Yeah.
But down at the millisecond level, things can get thin and speed becomes everything.
The greed for speed, the sources call it. High-frequency trading.
Exactly. Companies spending billions, literally, on things like laying fiber optic cables in perfectly straight lines, even drilling through mountains, just to shave off microseconds. It's an arms race.
And the worry is, what? That it's not really helping the market overall.
The concern raised is that this kind of competition, purely based on who's infinitesimally faster, might be crowding out competition based on, better pricing or analysis. It might hurt regular investors.
Like that airport analogy in the sources, money falling from the sky. Do you have a mad dash where the fastest person grabs it all?
Or do you collect it all, then auction it off based on price at the end of the day? Which feels, I don't know, fairer, less wasteful.
So the design of how trades happen might be favoring this potentially wasteful speed race.
It's a real debate in market design.
Okay, third failure. Too risky. This seems more straightforward. Trust, right? Safety.
Absolutely fundamental. If you can't trust the market or the people in it, it just won't work well. It needs to feel safe and reliable.
The sources give that simple example. The furniture store in Farmer City. Like if the seller's shady or disorganized and there's no easy way to complain.
Yeah, you're taking a risk just buying something. And for platforms like Uber and Airbnb, building trust was mission critical from day one.
Safe drivers, reliable cars, the app actually working, secure payments, all that stuff.
And a huge part of trust, as the sources highlight, is reliable information. Look at eBay's feedback system.
Oh yeah, the change they made. Initially, buyer feedback wasn't anonymous.
Right. So if you got bad service, you might be scared to leave a negative review because the seller could retaliate somehow.
Which means the feedback wasn't very honest. Less useful for everyone else trying to judge sellers.
Exactly. So eBay's redesign making buyer feedback anonymous was brilliant. Suddenly, people felt safe, to be honest. The information got way better, way more useful. built more trust. Airbnb did something similar.
And this trust issue, the lack of safety, that ties into the Boston Public Schools example too, right?
Perfectly. That system failed badly on trust. Even if it aimed for good matches, the rules, the algorithm, made it unsafe for parents to be truthful about what they wanted.
That was the immediate acceptance thing. If you listed your top choice, a really competitive school first.
And you didn't get in. Your application basically just vanished. You weren't automatically considered for your second or third choice. Poof.
Ouch. So parents had to play games.
Totally. They couldn't rank their real top choice first if it was a long shot. They were incentivized to list a safer, maybe less preferred school first, just to guarantee a spot somewhere. Risking getting nothing was too scary.
It's that parking spot problem again. Settle for the okay spot far away because you don't trust the system to fairly get you a closer one if you wait.
Exactly.
Oh.
And the sources mentioned experiments confirmed it. Parents absolutely played strategically when the system wasn't safe for truthful preferences.
Okay, so we have these common failures. Too soon, unraveling. Too fast, congestion. Too risky, lack of trust safety. But the good news is market design offers ways to fix these things.
Yeah, this is where it gets really constructive. Market design is about bringing science engineering principles to matchmaking. And one of the absolute classic success stories is the medical residency match. The match.
That market was a total mess before, right? Unraveling like crazy.
Oh, yeah, completely. Hospitals hiring students years early, barely knowing them. Then they tried imposing a fixed date, and it just became this chaotic scramble, instant decisions, exploding offers, broken promises, congestion city.
So what was the fix?
The elegant solution: a centralized clearinghouse. After all the interviews are done, hospitals and students submit confidential ranked lists who they want, in order.
And the goal is stable matching. What does that mean exactly?
It means finding an assignment where there's no student and no hospital they weren't matched with, who both wish they had been matched together instead of who they got. Basically, no pair has an incentive to ditch their current match and form a new one. It's stable.
Okay, makes sense. And how do they achieve that stability?
Through something called the deferred acceptance algorithm.
Yeah.
Amazingly, it was figured out by theorists, Gale and Shapley, but also kind of independently developed and adopted by the doctors themselves.
Wow. How does it work, basically?
Simplified. Think of students applying to their top choice. Hospitals hold their preferred applicants up to their capacity and reject the rest. Rejected students then apply to their next choice. Hospitals compare new applicants to who they're holding, maybe bump someone less preferred. This goes back and forth until no one's getting rejected anymore, and no hospital wants to bump anyone they're holding for a new applicant.
And this actually worked.
Transformed the market. Made it thick, everyone participates at the right time. Uncongested, the clearinghouse handles the complexity. And safe students get matched reliably in their last year based on real interviews. Huge success. Nobel Prize worthy, in fact.
Amazing. Though the sources mention it wasn't perfect forever, like medical couples needing 2 jobs.
Right, that added a layer of complexity. Matching pairs is way harder than matching individuals if you want true stability for everyone. They call it an iron law sometimes. The system had to adapt, make trade-offs. It's always evolving.
Okay, another big fix example, New York City high schools.
Yeah, that system was also a disaster. Paper forms, mail delays, massive congestion, and just like Boston, totally unsafe for parents, to be honest.
Principals holding back seats, schools demanding you rank them first. Just chaos, right? Thousands of kids left unassigned.
Terrible. So the redesign brought in a computerized system, also using that deferred acceptance algorithm. But crucially, they set it up so students propose to schools.
Why was that specific direction important, students proposing?
Because it made the system strategy-proof for the students. Parents could list schools in their absolute true order of preference: dream school first, safety school last, and no, it wouldn't hurt their chances at lower-ranked schools if they didn't get their top choice. They could just be honest, no more gaming the system.
And did it work?
Big time. Way more kids got into their top choices, much less chaos. And over time, principals started trusting the system more. Released those withheld seats, making the market even better. Brought market benefits choice based on preference without using price. Really powerful.
Okay, so algorithms are key. What about managing information flow, signaling?
Right, in these big, busy markets, you can't check out every single option. Signals are crucial bits of information that help people sort through things. Who's good? Who's actually interested in me?
Like college applications, your grades, activities, they signal you're a desirable student, right? You can learn, you have skills. A degree signals that for jobs.
Exactly. And then there are signals of interest. Applying early decision to a college. On a dating site, sending a specific message, not just a generic like, shows you're serious about that particular opportunity.
The sources also talk about costly signals. What's that about?
These are signals that are, well, expensive or difficult for the sender to produce, but because they're costly, they're more believable indicators of quality or resources.
Like a peacock's giant tail. It's heavy, makes flying harder, but signals good genes.
Precisely. Or a big fancy bank building signaling stability. Even waiting in a long line for a restaurant, the waiting is a cost, but it signals the place must be really popular and good.
But the cost itself is often kind of wasteful, isn't it? The peacock's tail,
Yeah.
that spent waiting.
Often, yes, from a social perspective. But the signal works because it's hard to fake if you don't have the underlying quality. Good market design, though, tries to allow reliable signaling of both desirability and interest without necessarily needing these super wasteful, costly signals.
Okay, what about auctions? That feels like a classic market design.
Absolutely ancient. A structured way to handle competition where bids signal value and decide who gets the goods. But the rules of the auction matter hugely.
Like second price auctions, where you win but pay the second highest bid.
Yeah, the clever design there is it makes it safe for you to just bid your true, honest value.
Yeah.
You don't gain anything by trying to guess what others will bid and shading your bid down. It simplifies things.
And then there's super complex modern auctions, like for cell phone spectrum.
Oh yeah, the FCC auctions, not just one item. Companies needed combinations, packages of licenses across different regions. So they designed these simultaneous sending auctions with complex rules about bidding activity to manage the congestion and let companies signal what packages they needed and discover the prices. Really sophisticated stuff.
And we're basically in options all the time online now, like for ads.
Pretty much. Every time a web page loads, there's often a lightning-fast auction happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Advertisers are bidding based on, your cookies or search history to show you a specific ad right then.
Because my pre-qualified attention is valuable.
Wow! So the auction design determines who gets to pitch me their product at that moment.
Exactly. It's market design deciding who gets what, millisecond by millisecond.
Okay, so markets are designed, they fail, they get fixed. But sometimes markets for certain things aren't allowed at all. This idea of repugnance.
Right. This is a really powerful constraint. Repugnance is when some people really want to do a transaction, but other people find the idea morally offensive or disgusting, even if they aren't directly involved or harmed.
What are some examples?
The sources list things like selling horse meat illegal in California, selling human organs for transplants illegal almost everywhere, unlike altruistic donation or kidney exchange. Same-sex marriage used to face widespread repugnance, but that's shifted dramatically. Historically, charging interest on loans was seen as deeply repugnant in parts of Europe.
So it really depends on time and place, and it's not always about money. Exactly. It's deeply cultural. And it acts as a fundamental boundary for market designers. You just can't design a market for something if society finds it too repugnant.
Like Islamic finance having to create non-interest instruments.
Perfect example. The repugnance towards interest forced innovation in financial design to achieve similar economic functions in an acceptable way.
And the really tough one is kidneys, right? Economists think paying donors would save lives.
The consensus among many economists is yes, monetary incentives would likely boost supply significantly. But the repugnance is so strong, it's illegal everywhere except, notably, Iran, under very specific regulations.
The sources float some ideas, like if it were allowed, maybe a single government buyer. Or could the view change over time, like how military service is seen as honorable?
Yeah, they explore those hypotheticals. Could compensated donation ever be framed as a civic duty, overcoming the repugnance? It's a provocative thought. But for now, repugnance is a major barrier.
But banning markets because of repugnance doesn't always work out perfectly either, does it? Like prohibition.
Right. Banning alcohol didn't make it disappear. It created a huge, violent black market run by criminals. The war on drugs arguably does the same thing today for illegal narcotics.
So there's a trade-off. A regulated market might be bad, but maybe better than an unregulated, dangerous black market.
It's a really complex calculation. For drugs, for example, would allowing regulated sales increase addiction overall? Or would the benefits of reducing crime, violence, and poison supply outweigh that? There are no easy answers when repugnance meets black markets.
Okay, so with all this talk of design, rules, fixes, how does this fit with the idea of free markets?
That's a great question. The sources bring up the economist Friedrich Hayek. He famously compared economists studying markets and gardeners studying plants.
Meaning you need to understand the structure, the soil, the conditions to help it grow properly, not just leave it totally alone.
Kind of, yeah. Hayek actually warned against a wooden insistence on total laissez-faire. He argued that sometimes good rules, clear property rights, ways to enforce contracts, basically good market design, are essential for markets to function efficiently and, in his view, freely.
So design isn't necessarily the opposite of freedom. Sometimes it enables it.
That's the argument. It's often about building the right infrastructure, the rules of the game, so participants can interact effectively. And it's usually iterative, building on what's already there. Like that Redfin example, trying to tweak real estate commissions within the existing market structure. Computers just speed up this tweaking process.
It feels like markets are almost like language,
Right.
something ancient, human that we use to organize ourselves.
That's a really nice parallel the sources draw. Both are ancient, complex human inventions for cooperation, competition, organization. Both have rules, some evolved organically, some deliberately designed.
And these matching markets, jobs, schools, kidneys, relationships, they feel incredibly personal, much more so than buying wheat.
Absolutely. They touch core parts of our lives, which is why designing them well is so important.
So market design is kind of like engineering,
Yeah.
or maybe plant breeding, taking these systems that evolved naturally.
Yeah, and applying science, data, thoughtful design to make them better, to fix the glitches, overcome the failures, maybe even create whole new possibilities like kidney exchange, creating thousands of transplants that simply wouldn't have happened otherwise.
It's this ongoing dance between evolution, how people adapt their strategies, and our ability to consciously design better systems.
Exactly. It's a fascinating interplay.
Wow, what a tour. We've gone from, the coffee you drank this morning all the way to these intricate systems matching organs or school kids, or even deciding which ads pop up on your screen.
And it's clear these systems are absolutely everywhere,
Yeah.
but they don't always work perfectly on their own.
Right. We saw those predictable failure points, unraveling because they're too soon, congestion when they're too fast, or breaking down because they're too risky, lacking trust.
But the big takeaway, I think, is the power of market design. Using science, using algorithms, thinking carefully about the rules, we can actually spot these failures and build systems that are safer, more efficient, fairer sometimes.
And also recognizing that our deep-seated beliefs, what we find acceptable or repugnant, draw hard lines around what kinds of markets we even allow to exist.
It really does give you a completely new way to look at the world, doesn't it? You start seeing the hidden designs or lack thereof shaping interactions all around you.
Definitely. So here's something to think about as you go about your week based on all this stuff we've talked through. Consider a market you deal with regularly. Maybe it's finding a job, trying to buy concert tickets, using a dating app, even finding housing.
Does this feel clumsy? Unfair? Just frustrating sometimes.
How might thinking about these ideas needing thickness, managing congestion, making it safe and trustworthy, stopping unraveling, maybe even bumping up against repugnance, give you some insight into why it works the way it does or doesn't, and maybe, just maybe, how it could possibly be improved?